What's an open secret that doesn't have a documentary about it yet? Steroid use in Hollywood. Everyone knows it's happening, but I don't think the extent is widely known. When a male actor puts on a lot of muscle for a role, they have most likely used steroids. Even if they have just put on a little muscle, they probably still use steroids, because you can't gain fast enough to get in shape for the start of filming. And because it is technically illegal, no one will ever admit it. What makes it worse is these people and their trainers will write articles for Men's Health where they go through their workouts, ignoring the fact that they took growth hormone for a year. There have been a few good documentaries about doping in sports, but I think we need one about Hollywood. There's an industry that basically takes guardianship of elderly people by getting them declared incompetent, without their knowledge. They move them into nursing homes, sell off their homes and assets, and take over their money. It's like the title theft scam, but with people being taken over rather than just real estate. It's brutal and frightening. Pilots aren't allowed to fly if they're depressed, treated or not, or taking any mental health medications, but most of them can't afford to take off work until they get better. Depression is chronic for many, so they fly regardless of how poor their mental health may be and keep it secret if necessary. The Mormon Church is sitting on hundreds of billions of dollars in stock and real estate. They do almost no charity work directly from those funds. The majority of the humanitarian funds the church claims are from an equivalent dollar value of labor from their members and another entirely separate charity arm which doesn't involve church contributions. There was a man who scammed a bunch of American small businesses, my dad's business included, to cook their books and amass a bunch of wealth in order to purchase an army of African soldiers and attempt to purchase Russian missiles in order to try and take over the world. He went undetected for a long time. Absolutely wild story. There's a small podcast that talks about it, but it deserves a Netflix series. This guy was at my house when I was a kid, lol. I'd love to see a documentary on the PPP loan fraud during COVID US. There have been a lot of news articles about it, but a deep dive that exposes wealthy people would be awesome. Larium, mefloquine. There's a mini YouTube documentary about it, but it's not nearly big enough or been seen by enough people for me to count that. If you don't know, Larium is an anti-malaria drug that was prescribed to many people in the late 80s and 90s, and prescribed by First World militaries up until the 2010s. I personally have family who was impacted and still suffers from the effects of Larium, but the people I know at least didn't have their brains and lives completely destroyed by it like so many others have. It's been linked to countless suicides and homicides, including the Kandahar massacre, causing paranoia, hallucinations, and night terrors that literally take your worst fears and bring them to life, because the mefloquine toxicity acts on the limbic system where your amygdala, aka the fear center, is. Many people have killed themselves over the dreams alone. Every single detainee at GTMO was dosed, for no reason, with the 1,250 milligrams dose that would be prescribed to cure someone who had malaria, not even the 250 milligrams prophylactic dose. This was done without testing the detainees for malaria and without reason to believe they had it. People from the same regions as the prisoners who were at GTMO as employees were not subjected to it, and it is widely believed to have been done specifically to bring about the debilitating side effects as psychological waterboarding. There is evidence, though not proof, that Larium may have been created as part of MKUltra when the CIA was trying to synthesize mind control drugs using quinolones. Currently, there are still class action lawsuits in progress in the US and Europe over the military's mass prescribing this as the drug of choice to prevent malaria, even though there have been much safer and equally effective options since the 90s. Google it. You might fall down the rabbit hole like I have many times after seeing how it affects my family members who took it. It's terrifying how much awful shit it's linked to. The Fat Boys were pioneers of hip-hop and contributed greatly to the genre, but are largely written off as a novelty and have mostly been forgotten. I would love to do a documentary about them. Love the fact that every other comment in this thread is like the Coca-Cola Corporation and controls this northern Canadian town using evil Mormon wizards on their payroll, who shoot steroids into their balls and use child labor to put microplastics into your food that's cooked by Nazis, and meanwhile you're like, hey, these guys made big contributions to rap and I think they should be appreciated more. How much the military actually waste? If they don't use what they're allotted one fiscal year, they don't get the same the next, so towards the end of the year they'll throw ammo off boats in the ocean and purposely break office furniture and burn excess uniforms so the same amount at minimum is allotted the next year. It's all government departments that operate this way. That's how most budgets work, and some people estimate it's something like up to 25% of spending goes towards this wasteful spending. It's called March Madness. they have to spend before the next fiscal year, very frustrating as a taxpayer. Cobalt mining, specifically EG and DRC, and the, politely said, questionable supply chains from mines to Apple and other tech giants that basically make it impossible to definitely exclude child labor involved. Yet these companies pretend that we're the case. Siddharth Kara's book is good, but this needs more attention. The way doctors are made in the US is basically a form of indentured servitude if you aren't from a rich family. You have to obey a system that is using you for massive profits. And if you wipe out or get dismissed at any point, you have 250 to 500K in debt to punish you, make you reconsider your decision to leave. Some experiences of residency include low pay, 6-day work weeks, forced night shifts, and having little to no say about your schedule. The last one isn't exactly limited to residency though. Interestingly, the modern residency program was developed by Dr. Halstead, who was wildly coked out his entire career. No wonder those 6-day 12-hour days were acceptable. How social media have destroyed the mental health of an entire generation, not just mental health, but single-handedly created the extreme political polarization we have today, which led to things like January 6th. Remember, every time you see posts on Reddit and elsewhere about how one candidate or the other will literally cause the end of the world, they've been programmed by the algorithms to think this way, and it's really, really sad. Work from home is more productive by every measure for jobs that can be done remotely. But corporations are in bed with cities that want workers back in their downtown restaurants and shops, so employers are staring to force return to office policies. Some employers are using those policies to get rid of senior staff because they know experienced workers will leave. I feel like the 2020 Chaz thing, where the Seattle government abandoned a neighborhood intentionally as an experiment and then militias took over and a bunch of people got murdered, is due for a deep look. It's a relatively covered-up scandal around here. The police were caught in a lie because they voluntarily left the precinct in the area while portraying themselves as victims being run out. The mayor at the time deleted her texts when she was subpoenaed, and the police chief covered it up too. National media portrayed it as this lawless hellscape. It was literally a big fucking party. At least 6 people were shot, and at least 2 died over the course of several days. There is uncertainty about the figures because there is argument about whether some events took place directly inside the delineated protest zone or outside of it, and whether some of the unknown shooters were directly involved or if they were only coincidentally near the location. At least one of the dead victims had medical responders delayed as the police, who are legally required to secure the scene of a shooting before medics come in, were stopped outside of the no-cop zone. It's a messed up situation. I live in a town in NJ that had a company called Ciba Geigy. They were the town's largest employer, so most people kept quiet about what they were doing, which was dumping chemicals into the Toms River and Atlantic Ocean and burying 47,000 drums of toxic waste in the ground. This created a plume of polluted water that spread beyond the company site and into our neighborhoods. We have a high cancer and autism rate, which hasn't definitively been connected to the chemical disposal. There's been small docs about it, and Danny DeVito was interested in doing a movie about it, but then COVID hit. I feel like this could be a good doc. Good one. I heard about this back in the 1980s and nothing since. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe.